Hey, what's up guys? Back out here in snowy Ohio. We have 12 inches of fresh snow on the ground. It's below zero this morning. Couldn't think of a better day to work on the Charger. I'm being completely sarcastic, but I have to get this done. We are 8 days away from having to have the front clip welded on, reassembled, floor pan installed, also to dig out that trailer right there, which has 12 inches of fresh snow on it, and get it moving out west. So we're about a week away or so from having to clear out of this house and finally make the big move. So with that, let's go ahead and jump straight into it this morning. We have to get this hood off. We're also gonna get both front fenders off, so that way we can do kind of a final measurement and centering of this front clip. It's extremely close right now. Don't expect there to be much movement at all to get this exactly where it needs to be, but I'm gonna show you guys exactly where I measurement. We're gonna do some cross measurements, make sure it's perfectly centered on the car, and then we will finally get this thing welded into place and finally make it permanent. So with that, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Alrighty, you guys, taking some final measurements here of our front clip before we weld it on, and right off the bat, found an issue. So as you guys know, when it comes to welding on, especially big pieces like this, you know, 1/8 of an inch here could be a mile when it comes to panel fitment and panel gapping. So you want to make sure that you get the little stuff right, because in the end, it could lead to some huge issues if you don't do it correctly. So I'm going to show you real quick where I took measurements here on this front clip. To start off with, here on the underside of our firewall section here, okay, right underneath where that cowl is, up to the front, should be right at, yeah, there we go, right at 40 inches. There we go, right at 40 inches to the edge. Same here on the other side. This is just making sure that your clip is square, that there's nothing wonky, you know, going on here, but you can see, again, right there at 40 inches. And now where I noticed my issue is that I did a cross measurement, okay? And so what this is gonna do is make sure that the front clip is perfectly centered onto the car, which obviously you want, or your panels aren't gonna fit. Okay, so we went through here and basically right through the center of our upper cowl spot here, we did a cross measurement all the way across to where our hood pin, our bump stops here for our hood go, okay? And I did that all the way across here on both sides, and I actually found out that the car, or the front clip, is off center by about 1/8 of an inch that way for our cross measurement, okay? So I started looking a little bit closer. I didn't see this when I put the front clip on here, but you can see here where the original holes were, where our plug welds here were. And you can also see the plug welds on the firewall where they originally were. And they are poking out, my guess, about 1/8 of an inch. So, measure twice, cut once, weld once. Now I got to do a bunch of rework. So what we're going to do, we're going to have to dig our Eastwood body cart out of the snow. You can see we're just about snowed in here. So yeah, gonna have to dig that out and get it back underneath the car, support the front clip, shift it over just 1/8 of an inch. We'll take our cross measurements again, screw it back into place, and then finally weld this thing on, you know, for good. So let's go ahead and get to it. Alrighty guys, as you saw, we got our front clip shifted over. Really didn't shift a whole much. I mean, you're only moving it, you know, 1/8 of an inch, so it really doesn't seem like it's moving at all. But like I said, we did push the clip over this way a little bit further. You can see here where our previous holes were, you know, it's barely shifted over that way. But it was enough that our cross measurements now, again, from our upper fender mount all the way here to where our bump is, or our bump stop here for our hood, all those measurements now are within a 1/16 of an inch, which is plenty good enough for me. Should be plenty good enough to get a good panel fit once we get to that point. You can see here the holes that we had exposed, those are now covered up. The only thing you can see here is where the previous screws were mounted in there. So we're in a much better place now. Let's go ahead, we're gonna start putting some more tech screws in place and sucking this metal together and getting it ready to weld. So let's do it. All right guys, just finished up welding this front clip on. Did go a little bit better than expected. Everything pulled in tight, welded really nice, and I'm pretty happy with it overall. Did want to show you guys one issue that we do have here. This support piece on the bottom side of this is actually supposed to be pulled in tight. As you can see, there's definitely some daylight in between there. Guessing at some point that this clip was, or at least that part was hit. The clip itself is square. I checked measurements with a buddy of mine that does have an extra front clip, and everything appears to be just fine. It's just, for some reason, that piece got dinged up at some point. So can't really do anything about it now. We got to have the car on a trailer here within a week, and so yeah, we'll fix it when we get to Utah, mark my words. So the rest of this here, it is an epoxy right now. Like I said, everything pulled in really nice and tight to the firewall and welded in really good. You can see here on this side as well, frame supports are welded in. You know, all the way up here, we've got that all completely welded up. So next step, we're going to get these front fenders on. We're going to install all the fasteners in them. I want it, you know, completely installed. That way I don't have any parts falling off or flopping in the wind as we go down the road next week. But yeah, so let's go ahead and knock those out. Alrighty guys, and with that, we are all wrapped up installing this front clip. Overall, I think it went probably, let's say, 8 out of 10. Got some hood fitment issues, which I'll dive into here in just a second with you guys. But really, to start with the welding, super easy. Again, just making sure, it's really easy welding. It's nothing crazy whatsoever. Just make sure you take good measurements, make sure you're square, corner to corner, make sure you're fully centered up with your front clip before you finally weld it in place. And honestly, the fenders went on great. Did want to show you guys here just our gaps on the bottom side here from where we installed our rockers at. You can see that gap turned out really nice. Still have to finish dressing out our welds, of course, and give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek as to how far we got today. But yeah, overall I think it went really good. Here we've got our headlight grille support fully installed. Got our hood latch installed too. There we go. Okay, but it's so nice to see this car finally be a car again and be put back together. So the hood fitment issues that I have are all to do with this driver's side corner here. I can lower the hood just fine. Gaps here relatively close. Obviously we're going to dial it in once we get closer to body work. But this back corner here really wants to stick up, the better part of a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch above the hood. Before you ask, the hinge is already set all the way to its lowest point, meaning the hood sits as flat as it possibly can. I'm going to continue to mess around with this a little bit. I do have some aftermarket hood hinges ordered from Ring Brothers. Those are going to be delivered to Utah. I'm really excited to get those. but I think it could just be an aftermarket hood hinge issue. So bought these temporarily to use. I saw the Ring Brothers ones, fell in love with them, so I bought the hood hinges and also the trunk hinges for the back. Couldn't resist, they're too nice. But that's really my biggest issue. All these gaps here pull in pretty good around the hood, and the fenders here on the bottom, you can see, you know, same with this side right here, that gap turned out really nice. So yeah, just some final cleanup and just a couple little things left that we've got to do here. I did, as you saw, I did blast our front valance, which was in unbelievably good condition here. You can see it is damn near pristine. Yeah, it's in excellent shape. So huge shout out again. Thank you, Scott, for all the help with this. But it's an original valance, only painted one time, no dings, nothing crazy whatsoever. So I do got to go back over to Eastwood, go pick up some more epoxy so we can get that in epoxy. Also got to heat up my garage and make sure it's a better temperature for spraying that 2K epoxy on there for better adhesion. Also, we are waiting for hardware to come in. That's been back ordered, so I'm really hoping it comes in this week. Otherwise, I'll have to throw that in the back of the truck when we make the trek west. Speaking of hardware, now this could be a sour spot for some people. You know, I know, you know, if you can, always reuse original hardware. But with these cars, I mean, you see the shape that the floors are in, the trunks are in, the body panels are in. You can imagine the hardware is just as bad, if not worse, in most cases. If the panels are that bad, it's almost a guarantee you're probably going to end up breaking bolts off. You're going to strip things out. It's going to be a pain in the ass. I love buying correct hardware, like full sets. Like if you're going to do a hood, buy the actual hood hardware kit through AMD or through any of these others. They're correct. I mean, for Mopars, you know, you've got, well, I don't have a screw handy here, but you know, there's certain points to some of the hardware. There's also numbers, there's lettering, there's different things on top of those bolts. If you buy them from a reputable aftermarket supplier, they're going to be correct and they fit perfectly, of course. You know, even just an example here, this being our Fender hardware kit here. I apologize for the rip in the center here, but you can see, I mean, it's all laid out beautifully, individually packaged, tells you exactly where each bolt goes. You can see here, you know, up here on the upper fender mounts, you know, with your bolts that go up in there. But, you know, and it's expensive. It is really expensive. You know, if maybe if you don't have the money all right off the bat to go ahead and throw, you know, it's probably gonna be $1,000 for hardware in this car alone. If you can't do that, you know, when you buy your hood bolt kit. You buy your front valance, buy your front valance hardware kit, your headlight support, your grill, all that stuff. You know, I think just the hardware kit for these front fenders is between $80 and $100 depending on what supplier you get. But in my opinion, well worth it. The bolts are perfect. I don't have to fight anything. Don't have to worry about breaking bolts off, you know, that have weakened over time. So it's just really nice peace of mind, and it always finishes out really nice, fresh paint. You know, I love it. I absolutely love new hardware. So with that, I already ruined the surprise, I guess, but we do have our floor pan ready to go in. That's the next thing. So today is Sunday. We have a week. My hope is to get the floor pan in. We're gonna, of course, get our valance epoxied, get that installed, and then I've also realized that, as you guys know, this piece here on our door support been eaten away. I have brought this piece inside, thawed it out. Probably gonna knock this out as well. We have movers coming in a week, so anything I want on the car needs to be on the car here within the next week. So, but with that, still got a lot of work to do, and I just want to say again, thank you all for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. If you're into Mopars, you're into fabrication, you're into watching me make mistakes, so that way you don't have to, hit that subscribe button and follow along with our progress. A lot of great stuff coming up for you guys. So with that, hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you soon. Take care.